Joints using fast grip gaskets can be easily assembled with common tools and methods used for many years in the assembly of Fastite joints. With clean rags, brushes, or other tools, clean the socket and plain end thoroughly, removing mud, gravel, or any other material that might cause the gasket to protrude into the path of the entering spigot. Next, wipe the gasket clean, and after flexing one or more loops, insert the gasket into the gasket recesses of the socket with the large sealing end of the gasket toward the rear of the socket and the harder portion in the narrow socket groove. It should be noted that the center of the gasket loops should be positioned between tooth locations. Press the gasket into the corresponding socket recesses so the gasket is seated completely and uniformly in the socket groove. Be sure no gasket loops or bulges protrude into the path of the entering spigot. In extremely cold conditions, make sure gaskets are warmed before installing. With a clean brush, apply a liberal amount of Fastite lubricant completely over the exposed inner surface of the gasket after it is placed in the socket. Also, apply lubricant completely over the spigot end of the pipe, spigot end taper or radius, and the outer surface of the pipe spigot up to the assembly stripe. Use only lubricant supplied by American. For underwater or very wet conditions, special American underwater lubricant is recommended and available upon request. Do not allow the lubricated spigot end to contact the ground prior to joint assembly. To begin assembly, the spigot end of the pipe should be in reasonably straight alignment. Center the spigot in the installed gasket so it makes firm and even contact with the inner surface of the gasket. Push the spigot end fully into the bell until it hits home at the rear of the socket. After completing assembly, a thin feeler gauge should be passed between the bell and spigot all around the joint to confirm correct gasket placement. Upon successful assembly, desired joint deflection may then be set in accordance with the limits mentioned previously. Any joint with apparent or suspected problems should be disassembled and corrected. For example, if assembly is very difficult or the stripe remains exposed outside the bell, it may indicate a dislodged gasket due to improper cleaning, gasket insertion, spigot placement, lubrication, etc., and thus disassembly and correction would be necessary. Most flexible restrained joints, including the fast grip joint, allow some amount of axial movement after assembly. In some installations, such as exposed piping or with connections of flexible restrained joint piping at angles to rigid piping or other structures, substantial movement may be undesirable. In such cases, it will be necessary to pull or extend the joints after proper assembly has been verified. For details on optimal installation methods and tools, call American's Customer Service Department at 1-800-442-ADIP or contact your American sales engineer for assistance.